So Jarvis, thanks so much for joining me to talk about your brand new book and audiobook, Good Pop, Bad Pop.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So it's basically like you excavating the things buried for a long time in your loft and finding these items, telling the stories about these items and saying whether to keep, cob, throw away, or an extra category sell on eBay.
That's a very good précis of the book.
So
better than I can do. I'm always very long-winded when I'm trying to describe it.
One of the brilliant items that you find is an exercise book from when you were around 15 years old and you're planning out what Pulp, this band, is going to be.
Yeah.
So what trajectory did 15-year-old you think Pulp was going to take in the music business?
I don't know whether I would have ever remembered writing all this stuff down in an exercise book. You know, it's like a proper kind of manifesto, and it's got illustrations and all this. And I'm doing it in my best joined-up writing. Like, I really obviously took a lot of care over it. Because I'd wanted to be in a band for probably since I was about 7 or something like that, which wasn't an unusual thing. That was like, you know, everybody was into pop music and stuff like that. But yeah, I was quite surprised, like, the very grand ambitions, like not just getting famous, but then taking over, like having a radio station and a TV station and a record label, you know, like basically trying to have some kind of media company that would take over the world in a nice way. Yeah, I guess when I've thought about it since, I think that must have been a bit to do with, I was really into the Beatles, you know, and they had Apple. Before there was, you know, modern Apple, there was a Beatles Apple. And that was a similar kind of idea, to kind of have your own label and to kind of take more control over the means of production and stuff like that. So I was probably just ripping that idea off.
Yeah, there's a whole section as well dedicated to what Pulp would wear.
Oh, yes.
And there's a note in it which is beads and sequins are allowed, but only if used in, I think it's like a silly way.
Yes.
When you read that,
I'm
did you
afraid
think
I've got
like,
no sequins on me today.
What would be a silly way?
I don't know what that yeah. I think that was like a thing of, I've always kind of liked show business type of things, you know, a bit of razzle dazzle. But in the immediate aftermath of punk, which is when I wrote that thing, you know, when I was back in like 1978 or whatever, punk had only happened a couple of years before, so all things like that were totally out.
Right.
But I think I just wanted to try and smuggle it in. Maybe just one sequence.
As long as it's used ironically,
yeah. Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And so you went out there, you did your first gigs and that sort of thing. What happened when it came to the first time you went to go and record some of your music as a band?
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that was funny. Well, I used to work in a market in Sheffield, and I was in the fish section, and there was this guy who was over in the butcher's section, and he was in a band as well, so we used to talk a bit at lunchtime, and he said that his band had recorded in this place, which wasn't that far away from where my mum's house was. And he said it was cheap, blah, 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 and stuff like that. So I rang this guy up and found out how much it was, and we saved up some money and went to record. And it was a crazy day, really, because we kind of turned up and it was just a house. You know, it wasn't, I wasn't expecting to be some kind of super fancy studio, but it was just a semi-detached house. So we kind of knocked on the door, and the guy came and said, "Take your shoes off." And he called his studio Electrophonique, which made it sound very, you know, fancy, but as I say, it was just a house. And then he kind of converted his house, he'd wired it up so that you could record in it. So the kitchen was kind of like where he had his mixing desk and where most of the band would be. And then upstairs, the drums had to be recorded in the bedroom. But it looked so crazy because there was this kind of, you know, this drum kit with its hexagonal pads and stuff, and then just like, you know, this double bed with a pink kind of coverlet on it, and a kind of, in my mind, it's like a matching pink shag pile carpet. I don't know whether it really was, but it was just kind of crazy. So I think his wife was dubious about having musicians in their bedroom unsupervised, so he'd put a little CCTV camera in the corner of the room, and so when we went down to the kitchen, the rest of us, we could see our drummer kind of practicing on this little portable telly on the side next to the toaster and stuff. So it was quite good.
And one of the kind of pivotal life moments for you was falling out of a window. So would you recommend falling out of a window for,
No, I
the
really
spark of creativity
No,
and
of course
revelations?
not. No, it's really dangerous. Don't try it at home.
So what did it do for you, that experience? What changed?
Pre-falling from the window, I think I'd always been thinking that inspiration was going to come from some cloudy, ethereal place, up in the heavens or something like that. And then kind of literally I fell to earth and kind of realised, oh, actually what I should be doing is looking right here, on the very ground that I'm walking on. Before this happened, I'd been at a party and somebody had done something similar where they'd pulled up the sash window, they'd gone out onto the window ledge, and then there was another window like maybe 3 feet next to it, and then they kind of walked around the outside of the building and came in through the other window, and everybody's going, oh. It was quite high up. So I don't know, for some reason I thought, wow, that's really impressive. And so about a week later, I was in this girl's apartment. It started to get a bit awkward. I didn't really know what to, when you're in one of those situations where you don't know whether you're going to get together or whatever, and it went a bit silent. I don't know, for some reason this I think, maybe if I do that stunt of going around the outside of the building, that'll impress her, and that will get through this kind of, this awkward part. So I said, I'm going to do this thing, and she said, don't do that. And she was right, because she lived in a modern apartment block, and so basically there's no way you can go and stand on the window ledge because there's this big bit of window sticking out like that. So I should have just given up then. But that's the reason I just thought, no, I'm going to persevere. So I thought that I would be able to do it by climbing out and then hanging from the window ledge and then reaching over to the other one and swinging over and then pulling myself back in. And she was really, I should point out, she was really telling me, do not do this. It's a really bad idea. So I ended up hanging off the window ledge and then just realised that there was, if I took one hand off, I'd just fall. So then I thought, all right, I'll go back in. But then I tried to pull myself back in and I couldn't even get my chin up to the window ledge. So I was just hanging there. So I thought, shit, what am I going to do now? So in the end, I just decided to let go. I decided to let go because I thought if I wait until I really do lose strength, then I'm going to fall on my back or, I'm going to kill myself or whatever. I thought if I let go, then at least I'm going to fall straight and land on my feet, which was true, but then it was higher than I really thought and I broke quite a few bones.
Yeah.
That's the basic story.
And got a revelation from it, but still not
recommending
climbing out windows.
I could have just read a self-help book and probably done the same thing. Wouldn't have been as
Fewer
dangerous.
broken bones, yeah.